goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creators, where we sit down often with a special guest and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so that you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. Hi, I'm Simon.
And I'm Greg.
Together, we are Cinemate. I said that really weird there. Cinemate Films. We are Scottish-based wedding filmmakers who love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking shop with others in the wedding industry. And this episode is sponsored by With Jack and Pick Time. And there will be those pre-recorded ads. I'm so sorry, but it's got to happen. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. Greg, who are we talking to today?
We are talking to Brjánn from 3B Photo.
Hey,
all the
Brjánn.
way from Canada.
Hello, how are you gentlemen doing?
Very good.
Very well, thank you.
Excellent.
So yeah, Canada. I love Canada. Where about we talking?
So we're talking about Toronto, if you're familiar with that that place.
Cool.
I'm in Toronto.
Never been, but heard it's a very cool place.
It is.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Cool. And how are you today?
I'm good. I just woke up a few hours ago and just getting started with my morning. So it's kind of nice to have this going on in the morning, because usually I'm just writing emails at this time. So this is a lot more interesting.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Again, for our listeners out there who might not know who you are, do you want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm a creative based in Toronto. I do shoot weddings as a photographer and a cinematographer. And then I also have a commercial practice based off of my previous career in the editorial field. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. Commercial wise, like what would you like to focus on? Do you have a niche that you like to aim for, or is it just your open book?
I'm mostly an open book. I'm pretty happy to work with most people in most situations. Excuse me. But I've always been involved in music, so I do a lot of that stuff when I can, and then obviously some campaigns for different lifestyle brands and things like that. But I love doing things in the music industry. I feel like that's kind of my favorite go-to option if it ever presents itself. That's usually where I'm at.
Yeah, are we talking like live concerts or behind the scenes music videos, or
yeah, mostly music videos or promotional content for the artists themselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. How are you finding that? Is it fairly lucrative? It makes it seem like it's just a money-making machine. But the only reason I'm asking is because
there's no money in music. Zero money.
Okay. That's fine. That's because Greg and I kind of met at university studying music technology, and our first foray into doing that was like, let's make a couple of live recording music type things, but the bands just did not have any money at all. Yeah. And so that was very short-lived for us. And I was just wondering if it changed.
No, nothing's changed. It's actually, they have less money now, even somehow, that over the time. But it's just like something I enjoy. I'm passionate about. Like, music's a big part of my life, and I've always been involved somehow. And I used to be after my editorial career in journalism, I was a staff photographer at Country Music Television Canada. So I was working directly with artists on a large scale, and it really helped me kind of put my foot in the door and get involved that way. But it's fun. It's creative. I find like musicians and I. Creatively, we're a bit more on the same wavelength than other people that I work with, and it's always a lot of fun. They're always really open. It's very collaborative. It's always fun to work with artists.
Yeah. I'm assuming the music scene in Toronto is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty robust. I think no matter what you're into, there's a community of people here, and whatever genre of music you're looking for. If you're looking for live shows, it's definitely, if anyone's going to come to Canada to perform, they at least come to Toronto. I think Toronto is one of those big places, and then Montreal is another really popular destination. Especially for like French speaking artists. Luckily, I speak French, so like I do connect with a lot of artists who are coming in from France or from the Quebec area, like near Montreal. So, it's a pretty robust community, and there's a lot to offer here. And if you're ever looking to see some live shows, like this is definitely one of the best places in North America to kind of catch a show.
Okay, that's good to know. Sorry, Greg. I know I'm asking a lot of questions right at the bat. It's just because we've had a few podcast guests who have come off, and we've then continued a conversation off air, and they were like, "Oh man, we didn't get to talk about music or anything." Like, I love coming away from a conversation with like homework almost. So do you have any like good bands from over there that we might not have heard of? Something that we can.
I mean, most of the bands I listen to aren't from Canada, like, unfortunately. I mean, I listen to a lot of things. I don't know what kind of music you guys are into, but I can always like send you some suggestions. Like, I kind of go through phases, and I love to revisit old artists that were inspiring to me during my coming of age years. Like right now, I'm really into a band called Amusement Parks on Fire, and they're from the UK. They're like an older shoegaze band, and like kind of like the pioneers in kind of that genre, and that's the kind of music that I like depressing, sad music. It's kind of
I like depressing sad music. Yeah,
but it doesn't sound too depressing.
Oh no, that sounds great. Amusement Parks on Fire. Oh yeah, cool, excellent. I've already got a band of homework. This is wonderful. Now you can ask your question, Greg. I'm so sorry.
I was just going to go to the photography. So how did you mentioned that music's been a big part of your life from early on. When did photography become a part of your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, it's the classic story of like, I grew up around somebody who loved taking pictures, and that was my dad. We're immigrants from Portugal, and my dad grew up pretty like humble. He's a farmer, and he was basically like, didn't really go to school, and he grew up working his whole life. But something that my grandparents instilled in him was the importance of like capturing or documenting, family events or things, big occasions through pictures. And they were really interested in preserving images and having framed photographs in their home and all that stuff. So growing up, my dad loved taking pictures and always had like a pretty decent camera, and he always invested, any play money he had into his toys. And so like, I was always around photography that way, and I never really took it seriously because growing up, I never really knew that photography was a job. Like, I didn't really think about that. I went to an arts school from grade like 7 through 12. So like my high school and my concentration was in music. But what was really interesting about that school was you were forced to practice other art forms, and you had to take like elective classes that were outside of your sphere. So what I did was, because I was a lazy stoner skater, I was like, hey, I'll just take photography, use my dad's cameras, get an easy A, and just go on with my day. So, starting in like the later years, in my senior years in high school, taking like a darkroom class and photography class, I started kind of enjoying taking pictures. I was really involved in the skateboarding community where I grew up in. I grew up in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada for the geographically unaware, and it's about 6 hours from Toronto, if anyone's wondering. So I grew up in that community, and it was always fun to take pictures with my friends, and us just hanging out at the skate park and skateboarding and just like being goofy degenerates, and it was fun, and it was fun to be challenged by my teacher at the time to be intentional about photography. And then, I graduated, and music was always great. And I never really wanted to pursue it professionally. It was just something I loved and was passionate about, but I was always really into writing. I loved writing. I was just creative writing and all that stuff. So I did a bit of creative writing in college for a year. And then from there, I was like, this isn't really going to be a practical career. Like I wanted to write like children's books or kind of like teen novels. And then eventually I was like, you know what, like what avenue can help me write and make a living and storytell? And then journalism kind of became a thing, and my parents were always like big news people. They loved reading the newspaper, and they loved watching the news. So like I was always kind of around that, and I was a respected journalist. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go and, I'll write for Rolling Stone or some cool music magazine. That was kind of my goal. So I went into journalism school, and then from there I kind of discovered photojournalism was a thing. So when you're in journalism and you think you're a good writer, you're actually surrounded by actual good writers, and you kind of start feeling humbled and realizing you might not be the best writer in the group anymore. But what I was the best photographer, because no one in my program cared about doing that. They loved it, they enjoyed it, but no one was, interested in pursuing that. So that kind of gave me a bit of a shortcut to the career that I went on to have.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. What, do you find that photojournalism had any effect on the type of photography you create for weddings?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, it's the two industries are actually so similar, but not in the way that people think. When I was in journalism, people assume photojournalists are like these flies on the wall, and you just kind of show up and you wearing camo and you sit and hide behind a bush and you take pictures of things unfolding, but that's not really how it goes. I'd say for 90% of my assignments, my camera was sitting on a table and I was having a conversation with people, and I was just getting to know them and trying to understand who they are and getting involved in the atmosphere and the environment that was presented to me. So, and with weddings, I kind of approach it that way too. And it's nice to be able to get to know people, understand what you're photographing, who they are, and getting, assimilated with that environment. So I feel like in that regards, in terms of narrative storytelling, there's not that much difference between journalism work and photography and wedding photography, because you're kind of showing up. There's an expectation that you're going to walk away with images that tell a story, and you have to get something out of people, and you have to walk away being able to represent that experience through a few images. And that's always been a lot of fun. And I never really assumed wedding photography was like that. When I was in school, I think it was my final year in journalism school here in Toronto. I went to Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson University. It's a complicated story. If you care about those kinds of things, I'd recommend looking into that. But the name change, that is. But my final year, my buddy got married. It was so out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, congratulations. Like, why are you telling me this? And he's like, I want you to photograph the wedding. And I was just like, I was very hesitant, and I was very I felt kind of cringed out a little bit that the idea of taking photos for his wedding. And then he's like, oh, you know what? Like there's like a light bulb moment where he was just like, hey, I'd love you to just kind of show up and shoot like it's an assignment. Cause at the time I was interning at the Globe and Mail, which is like one of the biggest newspapers in Canada. And I was very hesitant to take on other work because I didn't want my editors and peers to think I'm not seriously pursuing journalism and that I'm kind of dipping my toes in these other things. So I told him, I'm like, okay, I'll do this, but like, don't tell anybody, don't share these pictures, like, don't credit me, don't say I took them. I was very hesitant, and then I did it. Luckily, my wife, my now wife, then girlfriend, she was studying fine art, and she was a curator, and she was studying curatorial arts, and she was working directly with photographers, and she's like a real artist. So she's like actually good at taking pictures, where I'm just like I'm a good people person, and I'm good at like taking pictures once I'm in that environment. But so I'm like, hey, can you come with me and take pretty pictures? Because I'm pretty sure they'll hate anything that I shoot. So we went at it. We did it together. We had a really good time. My friend's reaction to the photographs was so like emotionally overwhelming for me, because I've never had like my editors or peers like react to anything I've ever done. They'll just be like, this is a really good photo, and you move on to like the next assignment. So like that kind of made me feel really cool and like inspired like by the gift that I gave him, essentially. And then I was like, oh, this wedding thing is pretty cool. And I kind of shelved it for a bit. And then my wife built a portfolio website for me at the time, because I was pursuing staff jobs and other things. And I had a couple of like obscure wedding photographs from that wedding that like didn't look like wedding pictures. It kind of looked like a photojournalist kind of walked by a wedding and maybe took a photo and kind of captured that essence. And then all of a sudden, like within like a couple of weeks, I started getting like emails from absolute strangers being like, hey, like, I'd love to have you shoot my wedding. I love the idea of a photojournalist being at my wedding. And we're talking like 2015, 2016 here. So this is like pre-social media trends and pre like, at the time, I think it was trendy to try to have a photojournalist shoot your wedding, because I think a lot of people were, they wanted the antithesis of wedding photography. They didn't want like that classic thing that everybody had for like 40 years. So, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But my career in journalism has been a huge player in what I do now, for sure. There's like no doubt about that.
Yeah. Did you ever, in like, looking at any work, especially your first wedding, I would feel a lot of fear in like trying something that doesn't like. There's an expectation of what wedding photography is,
For
and
sure.
I think when you go into a place, you're not trying to make wedding photos. You're just trying to create images, and so there's that expectation. Like on the back end, were you like having a look at how many your images got into the gallery compared to your girlfriend's images, and like, did you think, oh man, like she's got a lot more in here, or actually, like, I'm surprised at how many of my images made it in there, like.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I never actually thought about that. I feel like it was pretty much like, hey, here's everything, like, or anything that was decent. Like I kind of did that, and I didn't really hyper analyze like what I gave them, because it was a friend of mine, and I was like nervous about like what he wanted, and I was just like, okay, here's like 500 photos. I hope you like one. And you know what I mean? So, but he did, he liked a few more than a few. I think it was a nice balance. I think what was interesting about working with Brjánn, my wife at the time, was that it kind of created a collaborative atmosphere. And I think as a photographer in journalism or commercial, you're so used to working on your own and doing your own thing that you never really ask for somebody's opinion, or you never ask for someone to interject, or you never kind of bounce ideas off of people. You're kind of doing what you do, and that's it. So I think that kind of freed up a lot of anxiety, because once in a while I was able to just kind of step back and kind of take things in and be like, okay, like, what do I need to do here? Or like, what's the objective, or like, what's the photograph, while she did her own thing. And I think that kind of collaboration is rare, and in the creative industry in general. And I think, it really kind of was eye opening and gave me a lot more opportunity to experiment and try things that would otherwise feel uncomfortable in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that something you've kept going forward? Like, do you still work regularly with Brjánn as like a duo?
Yeah. So like, Brjann's such a good photographer that I didn't want to anchor her down. So I was like, you need to just like start your own business and do your own thing, and attract the people that you want to work with. And so we have like we have like an umbrella essentially. Like there's like us as a team, and then, but we also want to keep our own creative identities. And I think that that's super important. I think where a lot of people make a mistake is when they start like these teams or these collectives or whatever you want to call it. I think there's a little bit of lost identity there, like once in a while, where people kind of feel like they're all trying to achieve the same thing, instead of just kind of like rolling with their own their own personalities and creative visions and whatever drives them aesthetically. So yeah, Brjánn and I do work together often. Like if we need a second shooter and when the other person's available, like we're obviously going to ask each other first. At least I hope she asks me first. And then and lately, I think over the last maybe 5 or 6, maybe probably 5 years, video has become a bigger player in my wedding photography business, or my wedding business, I guess, just because it's not photography. Yeah. But so in those circumstances, a lot of couples will seek us out to have Brjánn be the lead photographer and then have me create a video for them. So it's kind of fun where we're working in tandem, but we're each kind of doing our own thing. So it's kind of freeing that way. But it's nice, especially on the back end of the business, in terms of like scanning film, editing the pictures, editing the video. We have 2 sets of eyes on the work, and it's like a collaborative environment, and we kind of run the business that way. And I think that that's something that I would recommend to like most newcomers who kind of jump into this industry and do everything on their own. It's intimidating. It's scary. It's a lot of work. It's burnout inducing. So to have somebody to lean on and work with, just kind of like the two of you with your podcast, like doing it by yourself is a lot different than doing it with another person. And I think sharing the workload will help you have longevity in the industry.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. It kind of touches on the community aspect of everything that we're harping on about here. Community over competition. Like you can definitely tackle wedding photography by yourself, but it is going to be an uphill challenge. It's going to be such a hard thing to do.
There'll be some lonely moments,
and it will be very lonely.
Yeah.
Talking about your films. So you produce Super 8 films, right?
That's one thing that I do as well. Lately, I think over the last 3 or 4 years, 16 millimeter has been like a pretty in demand format for me. Been shooting a lot of 16 millimeter and Super 8, but I only work in analog formats. I figured if I'm going to do this thing, I'm only going to do it this one way.
Yes, which gives you the benefit, I'm assuming, of not having to touch any audio recorders or anything like that.
Sorry.
Or maybe you do.
I do. I
do.
So
my goodness.
it depends. It depends. It's situational per wedding. So like I would say some weddings people find, or like some people I work with think the idea of like voiceover or like people talking in their video is kind of embarrassing or cringy. Cringy. Yeah. Like, can I say that without being an asshole? It's kind of cringy. And I would agree. You got to be very careful with audio. Obviously, motion picture, like moving images works so well with audio, which is why I love, just using music. And I feel like that's just like an easy way to create the emotion that you want. And every great film or any movie anybody loves, they always remember the soundtrack, right? So, but yeah, I do use audio recorders. A lot of what I'm doing now with my audio recorders is actually recording ambient sound to add to the video during like lulls in the song or during transitions, just to kind of add some depth and feeling to the video, so it doesn't just feel like, oh, I shot these beautiful images and I just put a really good song on it and it's over. Like, I mean, sometimes you could do that and get away with it, but I'm trying to kind of like level up and change things and constantly evolve. I don't like feeling complacent. I don't like feeling like I'm doing the same thing twice. It's just like a neurotic thing for me as a creative. I just like hate sometimes when I take a picture or like a video shot and I'm like, I've done this before, like I just get upset with myself. And even though I know the clients will love it because it's new to them and fresh to them, but like to me, I'm just like trying to push the boundaries every time. So, but yeah, so that's where this like ambient audio aspect is coming in. I do a few like recordings of things if I know somebody's going to say something, have like a really nice moment in a speech, or they're making a nice reading. One of my favorite like audio tidbits that I looped over a song was just like a groom's father reading lyrics of the couple's favorite song, and he had a British accent, and you know people from the UK, when they speak, it just sounds so good. You guys can be talking, you can be reading the instructions, for like toilet paper, and it would like sound super cool. But so he was reading these lyrics and he was getting choked up, and I was just like, man, this will sound so good at the beginning of the video during all this B-roll, because the song had like a long intro, like, and it was kind of a very uplifting song, and to hear this sort of like stoic man say these like beautiful words and that are so poetic and interpretive, I was like, this will just be such a cool way to like rile up some emotion before like banging things out like in with the rest of the content. So but it's about just treading lightly, I think, with that kind of stuff. But audio is key. It's very important.
So how did, likes of that moment with the dad, how did you know that's the thing I'm going to make up? Like, I'm assuming you hadn't or had you mic'd up all the speeches, or was this just a case of you knew in advance and chose that was going to be a thing?
Yeah. So the couple, because I was shooting a Super 8 video for their wedding, and I was like, hey, is there anything interesting that you want like recorded? And they said, oh, we'd love like a shot of like David's dad reading like this thing, and I think we might get emotional. I think they mentioned it because they knew that they were going to probably get emotional hearing those words, so they kind of wanted to prep me for that. And like, man, I could barely see through the viewfinder because my eyes were all like watery. I was like actually tearing up for like the first time, I think, maybe in my career. So I was kind of ready for that, and I'm always ready. I'm always kind of recording things just to have in my back pocket. Sometimes it lands and sometimes it doesn't. I think it's just better to be prepared and kind of create that situation for myself and then make a judgment call afterwards. But the couple, I do have like an information kind of questionnaire thing that I have couples fill out before their wedding, so that, I can do some kind of pre-production stuff where I kind of go in with a specific mindset and with preparation for things, so that I can really give myself the best opportunity to get everything to make the best final deliverable that I possibly can.
Yeah. And the thing I like a lot about your films is the fact that you don't crop anything. Everything's left. Like, a all the film burns and the bits at the side. I can't remember what are those holes called again in the film.
The perforations.
The perforations, yeah, they're left in, and I love that. Has that always been the case? And so
yeah, I mean, so for the couples, like I actually give them the option if they want me to crop like their final video for them. So sometimes I'll crop it in. Some people don't want the edges. Some people like the overscan, seeing both. It could be a bit jarring, so like or dizzying depending on the shot. I keep it for my own. I keep it for my own. Like so, the presentations that I want for my portfolio, I want people to see like, hey, this is what I shot, and this is the frame. There's no hiding what I did. I think that there's something kind of fun and exciting about that and thrilling. Like I love being anxious and stressing myself out apparently. And I love just, making life terrible and being a masochist and just making life as hard as possible. So keeping all that stuff in there is just kind of like a fun challenge for me to be like, hey, I need to frame this perfectly. I come from like the world of journalism where like you have a very tight limitation on what you can do to something after the fact. And I did do a lot of video documentaries for newspapers because, when I first got into the industry, all the old heads, all the old guys just absolutely were so resistant to video. So, and I was a young guy and I was like, yeah, I'll do that assignment. Yeah, I want access to that thing. If it means doing video, whatever, that's cool. And I love cinema. So I kind of kept that mentality when I'm doing weddings. I want it to feel like more of an artistic documentation, more so than like a produced film, if that makes sense, I guess. So keeping all that raw stuff kind of keeps it real. It kind of shows people, hey, I'm actually shooting on analog and it's not just some, filter or like thing I'm throwing in post. And it just kind of, I don't know, it just like, to me, it just kind of feels cool and interesting to see really. I don't really know. My answer to everything is like, I think it looks cool. Like really, that's really what it is.
It does look cool. It does look cool. You are not wrong. It does look cool.
So is that the same answer to like, why decide to shoot only analog for films? Is there a thought process behind that?
Yeah, like I don't want to do fucking 100 hours of post processing. That's like literally what it is, and I don't want to just like sit at a computer and like be an artist. Video editors are artists themselves, and I'm not that. And yeah, I can cut together some footage and make something like digestible, but video editing is a craft, and I don't want to dedicate my life to that craft at this point in time. And I like the idea of being stressed out, like I said, and I like the idea of just like knowing what I need to shoot and really being decisive and intentional with what I'm shooting. Like not to knock other photographers or cinematographers or whatever, but like I just feel like that, like as technology gets better, people get lazy. It's like the truth, like with ChatGPT. People don't even write their own emails anymore because they just don't want to. It's kind of like video and photography. Like you can literally stand at a wedding, frame something up, and hold a button like a monkey, and just like be like, cool, like I'll make something great out of this later. Whereas like I want to make something great in that moment, if that makes sense. So shooting analog really does that, and it kind of like eliminates a lot of the aesthetic choices that I have to make after the fact. Like I don't have to like worry about LUTs and color grading. Well, I mean, I still color grade. Sorry, like I should reword that. I don't need to like obsess over color grading. I don't need to obsess over trying to create something with what I got versus just like making something and making those decisions kind of in the moment. So and I think it looks great. There's something nostalgic about it. It works really well for weddings in that sense, because I think anybody wants to look back on their wedding and feel like that sense of nostalgia. They want that bittersweet moment where they're happy but also sad that it's over. And I think film has that feeling. Like digital is sterile, and I think it's great for for the intended purpose, and it's much more cost effective, obviously. So I don't disrespect anybody who shoots digital for that reason. It's fine, but for me, it just creates a different mindset, and it opens up a world of possibilities for my creative process that digital just doesn't offer me.
Yeah, you mentioned your dad's Super 8 camera. I'm pretty sure somewhere on your website. I think is that still the camera that you're using?
So no, so I use that one for my own personal like Super 8ing of things. Okay. So yeah, growing up, my sister's like, I'm not that old. Like I wasn't being filmed on Super 8. Like I look great for my age.
You're looking great, man.
I look great for 60. But my sister, who's 10 years older than me and is old, and I know she's going to be listening to this. So yes, you are old, Liz. But she's 10 years older than me. So when she was a baby, it was kind of like the late 70s. And, it was the late 70s. And my dad, and because obviously we didn't grow up like, rich and famous or anything like that, even though maybe digital or other technologies were sort of coming along, my dad was still shooting a lot of Super 8 because it was cost effective and he loved it. So the ironic thing is that on my birthday every year we'd pull out the projector and watch my sister's baby videos, which was a lot of fun for me, like as a kid. But back then I hated it, but then growing up I started to appreciate like those videos a lot. Like I was mostly filmed on like camcorder and VHS, which I think is cool, and I love that, but that's a bit more complex to do these days. But like my dad had that. So like I said, he always invested in something great and good, even though he like maybe shouldn't have at the time, but he did. And I think it was maybe in 2013 or 14, just as before I graduated, I was working like in the news world a little bit at that time. And I just remember going up to my dad and being like, oh, hey, like, cause I saw his projector. They had just moved to a new place. And in the packing boxes, I saw he still had his Super 8 projector. And I was like, oh, like, do you still have all this stuff? He's like, oh, yeah. And he took meticulous care of his equipment. And then he pulls out this like dusty old leather bag that's like literally disintegrating. The foam on the inside is dried up, disintegrating. Pulls out this pristine Super 8 camera. And I was like, oh my God, like, can I shoot this? And he was actually hesitant to like even let me touch the camera, even though I was like a professional photographer and like I knew what I was doing. And I just like, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna put some film in. I'm gonna buy some film. I'm going on a trip to the West Coast with Brjánn, and I would love to just like bring this and see what happens. And then I brought it. It worked. I got the footage back, and it was like I could barely afford to like develop and scan it because it felt so expensive at the time, which was compared to now, it was, I wish those prices stayed, but, my bank account really wishes that. There was something so special about the video, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because it was my dad's camera and I felt like it was like an heirloom, or I felt like there was this kind of cathartic moment where I was doing what he did at my age. And it was just like so beautiful for me, and it made me kind of emotional, and like seeing the footage, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is cool. Like if I ever have a family and they see these things, they're going to think it's stupid and silly. But then when they grow up, they're going to really want that too, and it was really powerful and it was really cool. And to have my dad's camera was just such a treat, and such a privilege for me to kind of go back and do that. So I'm holding on to that, but it's on its last legs, maybe, because obviously it was sitting in a bag for like 40 years. And it still works. So like, I'm not trying to use that. I did shoot my first 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 weddings with it, because it was such a beautiful camera and it renders so uniquely compared to like other cameras that are so popular now. But it's such a special camera to me that I don't want it to die, during somebody, drinking beer on a dance floor or something. I want it to die like in my hands as I'm filming something I care about. So, but that gave me the pathway into like that format and that medium. And then from there, I just invested in other cameras that I use as like my work cameras but having my dad's camera was so sick. It was the coolest thing. I still have it. I should have displayed it on my shelf instead of that thing. But it's just like such a cool thing. And the fact that everybody had those cameras back then and everybody made like footage like that was just so cool. I feel like that's kind of lost these days, and I feel bad for people who don't have something like that in their lives.
Yeah. I loved how poetic you were about describing that whole like circle of you're doing what your dad used to do. I love that.
Yeah.
And
I'm a sensitive loser.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative.
Like as a teen, I feel like I didn't really find myself till a lot later in life. Yeah. Like my dad was into fitness and martial arts, and I was never into that. And my mom was into other things. So I felt like very disconnected from my family.
Sure.
Until I was old enough where I moved into my grand's house, and my grandfather had an array of old film cameras. And I remember, studying for A-levels and getting into photography. And I felt that moment like with my grandfather, who had recently passed away. Yeah. No, it wasn't recently at that point. It was a few years, but he had passed away. And I just remember that feeling of like, it's so cool that I'm doing this thing that my grandfather used to do with his equipment. And I think,
Exactly.
I don't know. It was like a weird feeling because obviously he had gone and I didn't really get to know him, but I felt like at that point in time, I was getting to know him just a little bit.
Yeah,
you know what, man?
Like it, and it's special. And like it goes to show, like art really is powerful and it connects people. And if it can connect you to a part of your life that was missing or isn't there, and it's funny that you brought that up because like a lot of my own personal projects and grant based work that I've done is me trying to reconnect with my heritage and my family back home in Portugal, and to be in those places and to photograph like my dad's childhood home and his bedroom and these things with like cameras that he had or he used was just like it's wild. I mean, it's so powerful. And I think as a creative to have like an outlet like that and a connection to your life, whether it's a positive or even a negative one, I think is worth exploring. And I think that's such a cool story. Like, to have like my grandfather never had any cool cameras. I don't think he could ever afford them, but they always afforded to pay a photographer to take pictures, so I think that's really cool. And I'd love to hear stuff like that.
Yeah, I like it.
Sticking on the Super 8 and Super 16, what are some of the drawbacks of shooting on the analog formats?
Other than the price.
Well,
I mean, literally that is the biggest drawback. Yeah. Like money, just throw money into a garbage can. And that's basically it. I mean, obviously the cost is it's cost prohibitive. Obviously if I'm doing it for client work and for weddings, there's costs are covered in some regards, obviously. But when I'm doing it for myself, I'm just like, oh my God, like, I hope these memories are worth it. But the cost is definitely the most prohibitive thing. Obviously, having no playback is scary, and a lot of people I don't think can handle not seeing what they're shooting or looking back at what they shot. And it's like, okay, I'll see this in 3 months. I hope it's in focus, and it's like basically kind of like how I have to tell myself that. Obviously something like Super 8 focusing in low light is challenging. And unless you have like a really good camera with a really good viewfinder and you have really good sense of distance, it's easy to misfocus. 16 is a little bit easier that way. It's a lot easier. It's brighter. Viewfinders are more advanced, etc. But I would say that those are the two biggest drawbacks. Obviously, cost and not having playback are definitely the only two things that really can kind of fuck you over, like in a really bad way. But other than that, I don't think those two drawbacks disregard, like, the positives of it, I think really outweigh that. So those are definitely the two worst things.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, for anyone who hasn't dabbled in film, like cost wise per roll, like what are we talking? You go to shoot a roll, what the price is?
So here, like, let me break it down. Like, I'm always happy to be transparent about stuff like that. So, a roll of film, 16 or Super 8, you're looking at like anywhere from 75 Canadian dollars to $90 in my currency. So whatever, maybe a little less for pounds and a little bit less for USD. So you're looking at that just for the cost of the one single roll. And then you get 3 minutes of footage or 3.5 minutes of footage. And if you're obsessive like me, you want to get it scanned in the best quality. So like you want to get it scanned in 4K by people who know what they're doing. And there's an incredible lab here in Toronto, like probably one of the best scanning labs in North America. And they do like insane projects, and they're the best. They're called Frame Discrete, and my buddy Justin is the owner there. Really amazing. They get stuff sent from all over the world, and they have an incredible scanner, and they have an incredible scanning tech. They also process film. So I send it there. So processing per roll costs me about, like, I don't know, $400 $40 to $60 per roll. So that's another, $100 almost right there. So you're looking at $200 just to like have a negative. And then scanning, you're looking at about like anywhere from like $75 a minute to scan. So
a minute.
Yeah. So a minute. Yeah. And that depends if you're getting your stuff color corrected or if you're getting your flat scans back. If you're getting flat scans back, I think you're looking at like $45 or $50 a minute. So, so it kind of depends on like how much work you want to put in yourself, or if you trust the technicians at the lab to do it for you. Some labs don't even offer, I think, color correction. So, but obviously like I like to have my stuff come back to me in the best version of itself. So, and the colorists at Frame Discreet are incredibly talented, and I really do trust them. So you're looking at that. So then, times, okay. So that's,
what was that? Yeah, I've not been adding up those costs. Hang on. What is
so
it?
like $75 times 3.5 minutes, plus $90 plus $60 plus tax. We're looking at like almost $500 a roll, or maybe $300 a roll, $350 per roll, give or take.
350 Canadian dollars that's £190.
Almost £200, yeah.
Just to have one roll of film to use. And I'm usually shooting 5 rolls of film at a wedding, if not more. So, yeah. So when people inquire with me and they're like, that's expensive. And I was like, yeah, it is for me too. So, yeah. So like, you gotta, I'm not a big business guy, but I took a lot of business classes in university in preparation of my freelance career. And, people really have to be careful, like undercharging. And I understand like sometimes people want to just get their foot in the door and get some experience, but you can't keep doing that for years on end just to kind of get market share. I think you have to be realistic and ask yourself like, hey, can I really just dish out $500 for funsies? Like, yeah, you got to really be calculated about it and kind of put some worth into that. And the worst part is most of the stuff that's being shot and scanned and color corrected at the lab is out of focus or blown out or unusable. So yeah, to spend 300 or 200 pounds to have nothing is just a tough pill to swallow. So yeah.
Damn, that is deep. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
have you ever thought of just emulating it? Like, I know it's not the same. I know there's going to be others that are like, how fucking dare you?
Yeah,
and I know. I know.
It's not even about like faking it. It's for me. It's really honestly, it sounds corny and pretentious, but I love the process of shooting analog. Like in the moment, I really do think differently because there is that finite material that I'm working with. It's not like, hey, like it's fine if I don't get the perfect thing, I can just try again. It's really, it really puts me in a different mindset where I'm like, okay, like I got to think about my shots. I got to be a bit more calculated. I got to be present, and I can't just check out at any given time. And I love that adrenaline. Like, and I think that comes from my work in news where like, when you're shooting something, it's like, you better get the photo. You're never going to get another assignment. And I think I personally love that. Like it almost feels competitive for me in that way. So that, that to me is worth the thousands of dollars per project, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any, like, if someone's listening to this and they're like, you know what, I've seen some Super 8, I want to give it a go, or some Super 16, what would like the one piece of advice be for someone to get started? Whether that be how to approach their mindset of it or pricing or whatever.
Honestly, if you're getting started, like just learn how to expose film. Like honestly, that to me is like the biggest issue I've seen with people. Like, because I get DMs all the time. Like I'm talking like daily from people who like anytime I post like something to my Instagram that's video related, I will immediately get like 10 to 20 DMs from people asking how it looks so good or this and that, or they'll show me something and they'll be like, oh, why doesn't my stuff look like this? And I think a lot of it is rooted in exposure, because like film exposes differently than digital. So if you're coming from a digital background, you have to kind of rewire the way your mind thinks. So I think it's important to just like give yourself all the opportunities to succeed by like at least understanding exposure. And then just like I would start with Super 8 because the cameras are less complex. You don't have to be as precise with exposure. The camera does a lot of the thinking for you, at least most of the ones that are out there, not necessarily the ones I use, but and shoot in good light. Shoot outside in the day, during the day, and you'll have something to work with. It's when you're starting to get into more complex lighting situations that it becomes challenging. And then, the next step from there would be like learn how to frame and create motion images that are compelling and interesting. And then the next step after that is like learn how to edit everything cohesively in a way that can evoke emotion. So it's kind of like a tiered process, I think, in terms of, I think people kind of jump into it and they kind of like bite off more than they can chew, or they just think that like, hey, if I just record and just like, because it's sequential, right? Like it's like you can only shoot it, at that time. And most of the time when you get the scans back, everyone just kind of thinks, oh, hey, this looks great. It's telling the story because this is shot chronologically. So I think, I challenge people to think outside of that norm and don't like lean too heavily on like the ease of that aspect of shooting it. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, just shoot in good light and get good exposures, I think is a good start to not waste your money.
Yeah, definitely answers it.
Definitely good tips because you don't want to waste that money.
Switching to wedding photography now, but staying on like the gear train of thoughts. What's your go-to gear setup for a wedding in photography?
Yeah, so I mean, ironically, I look like a war photographer when I show up to weddings. I got like 5 cameras around my neck, and it's just like it's like, all right, here we go. But I have a few different cameras that are in my rotation, so to speak. I basically own every film camera that is known to man. It's kind of bad, but because I've been doing analog photography for a long time, and when film died for that brief few years, I just snagged up every camera I could. But my main workhorse cameras are a Leica M6, Leica M7, and then a Leica M4P. So I kind of rotate through those 3 cameras on a wedding day. And then I have a few different medium format cameras that I'll use based off of the wedding and what people are going for. So like, I have a Hasselblad, a Mamiya RZ, Fuji GA. I have like basically like, Mamiya 7, Mamiya 6, like I have it all. So it really depends on what's inspiring me in that moment in time, or like in that given time of my life. And what's inspiring the couple too will kind of affect that. But like my main go-to cameras are always my Leicas, just because I love shooting rangefinders and I love the ease of focusing them. So, yeah, that's kind of like my big setup is those guys. And then I rotate a few other cameras, along the way.
Yeah. I guess with that then, you were talking about the film video stuff. The pricing is important, about knowing how much your scans cost and everything.
Yep.
Mixing between 35mm and medium format. Talk us through your package that you offer couples. If you're just choosing, I'm going to do more medium format for this wedding, how do you price your package and what do you offer?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. So, for example, like all my packages, like I just shoot film. So like whatever, like some weddings I'll shoot 20 rolls, some weddings I'll shoot 35, some weddings I'll shoot 27, some weddings I'll shoot 45. It really depends on the wedding, and it's kind of based off of like the hours. So if I'm there longer, I need more film, so the package is more expensive. But in terms of 35 and medium format, I predominantly shoot 35 because it's just easier and it's like the quality's good and I can get everything I need, and it's a lot more mobile. I'd say about 75% of the wedding is on 35mm, and then 25% is on medium format. So, things for like group photos, portraits, like cocktail hour or like specific moments, I'll shoot them on a mix of medium format and 35, but then predominantly shooting 35. So that doesn't actually affect my pricing. Like I kind of, did a cost analysis of everything. And I was like, okay, look, on average, if I shoot this many rolls at a wedding, whether it's 120 or 35, it's going to roughly cost in this window of finances. And so I priced everything according to that, so that I didn't really feel like shoehorned or stuck, or screwed over if like I shoot more or less. I kind of went about it that way, just because I told myself, hey, look, if I want to shoot film, I gotta eat the cost and I got to accept that. But like, I have way more free time now. Like I have way more free time than my peers. Even though I do scan my own film, which is a huge cost saver too. Like that, I can't I can't downplay that. Like scanning my own film saves me a lot of money. But I also have a lab scanner. So I'm not exactly like standing over like a light table with a SLR taking pictures of each frame. Like I would drive myself crazy if I did that. So, but again, every person's business is different and it kind of depends, but, you definitely need to have at least your costs covered and then some, really, if you want to try to make a living at it.
Yeah, one of our community asked what scanner in particular that you have chosen to do your home scans and about your workflow.
Yeah, I mean, so I have like an Noritsu HS 1800, like a 1800, which is a 35 millimeter and medium format scanner. So basically what happened was, again, when film was dying and labs were closing, they weren't necessarily being given away, but they were not super crazy expensive. And I was able to buy one from a reputable source, had like a technician look it over and everything. So now I have that. Now that I have that in my repertoire, and I also had a Pack-On, which is like a Kodak branded scanner for 35 millimeter film. I use that one specifically to scan certain film stocks that I think look better. Oh yeah, cool, thumbs up. Certain film scans that look better, or film stocks that look better on that scanner versus the Noritsu. Because like when it comes to scanners, like they all have like it's essentially like buying a Nikon or a Canon. Like what sensor do you like and what kind of feeling do you want from the sensor? A lot of people love the Fuji Frontier scanner, and I almost purchased one because I found one for a really good deal, but like I don't really love the look of like film scans with that. Like it kind of gives me a foundation and a basis that isn't as pleasing to the eye to me. So yeah, when I had the opportunity to buy the Noritsu, I did it. And, and I actually bought it from Fujifilm directly, which was really like great because I felt like good about the purchase. It wasn't cheap, but I've saved that money over at least 2 or 3 times now. So, so that's my scan. Like, obviously that's not a setup that's accessible to most people or easy or practical. I would, you could probably get your scans done for years at a lab before you would even like reach the cost of what one of those machines like is. But, if you're shooting as much as we are, which is like, you're looking at like maybe 12 to 1500 rolls of film a year, it really adds up. You know what I mean? Like it really, really adds up. But I also have a lab in Toronto that I use for scans, and like, I get all my stuff developed. Obviously I don't develop it myself. That's like a science, and I'm not a chemist, so I don't want to touch that stuff. But once in a while, like I get my stuff scanned because I just don't have the time, or I want to give myself free times to not be scanning. So I trust the lab that I use to get me great scans that are equivalent to the ones that I would do. But but if you're at home and you're doing your own thing, like obviously flatbed scanning is really accessible, super time consuming, and a bit more of a pain because you have to do a lot more color correcting, which is kind of annoying. But there's a lot of great software out there to kind of like help you out. If you could afford like a Nikon Cool Scan, like those are really good for 35 millimeter. I still think flatbed scanning is better for like medium format. It's like the best option out there besides like a lab quality scanner. So if you're shooting a lot of medium format, like a V600, V750, V850, V800, any of those Epson models would be great. Or even DSLR scanning medium format is awesome because you can use, I know like a buddy of mine uses a GFX to scan all his stuff. He's an art photographer, so he's like taking pictures of like 10 frames like every month kind of thing. But the results are incredible. They look like drum scans. It's like so beautiful. I just don't have the time or patience to do that. So I'm lazy and I want to put the roll in and just walk away and come back in 5 minutes and do the corrections that way. But, and then, if you can do the Nikon Cool Scan, like that's another one that's like being made that produces beautiful results and super accessible. So there's really good options out there. And I think it kind of depends on your budget and what you're looking for.
Yeah. Have you, just out of pure curiosity, I know you said you don't develop it yourself, but have you ever tried with one of those like home kits that you can get? Because they're fun.
Yeah, they're fun. I haven't done it probably since I was in university. Like I'm not the best with like these like hyper specific fine things, and I get like kind of impatient and frustrated, and like it's not like my favorite thing to do. And it's such a like it's kind of like being a baker versus a chef. You know, if you're a baker, you have to follow the recipe to the exactitudes. Otherwise your banana bread is going to be horrible, you know? But if you're a chef, you can just kind of throw in a bit of salt, maybe a bit of pepper, taste tests, and you feel it out. And I think that's more my style, as like a creative. And, but like some people love like the process of like making the photograph, you know, like and developing it. And there is something beautiful and artistic about that too. It's just like, I don't have the space or the time or the patience to do it for like 50 rolls at a time. But you know, if you can do that, it's a really good way to get familiar with the analog process. I did it a bunch in high school and university because like that's like what we had to do. And it's like a good way to get familiar and kind of understand like what you're making. It's way more cost effective, obviously, if you can, you know, use up the chemistry in time. But yeah, I'm not exactly the right person to be doing that. I wouldn't trust myself to do it. So
we're going to interrupt this podcast to bring you an advertisement for PickTime. Our buddies at PickTime, we love PickTime. If you want to elevate your business, PickTime's maybe the way to do it.
It's an online gallery delivery service.
It's a really good looking one, which is initially how we got into the service. It just looks better than all the other kind of platforms that we personally use.
Yeah. We've over time got to know the owners, got to know the people behind it. Lovely people, great support system there as well.
There's just so many tools at your fingertips with PickTime. But the marketing and the blogs and the slideshow features.
Yeah, there's so much more than just a gallery delivery service. You've got all those things that Simon was talking about. You can create your own blog from it. You can create slideshows. One new feature that I really love is the vendor network. It's where you can use AI to curate a gallery for a specific supplier. So you could use AI to gather all the photos of the flowers and send them to the florist, and they would have that gallery specific just for them.
It's kind of a mind-blowing feature.
Yeah.
And we might as well be taking advantage of AI before the uprising and it starts taking advantage of us. So let's just all bear that in mind.
Yeah, and not to mention the built-in store, and that way you can just make more money while also having a nice, aesthetically pretty gallery.
Yeah. And if you want to sign up today, you can get a free month if you use Perspective at checkout.
Yeah.
So if you want to test it out for free for a month, go for it.
Take your business to the next level with PickTime.
It's been a while since I tried film, but I think during COVID when we were all locked down, I bought myself a home kit, and I was like, right, I'm going to do black and white film. I'm going to buy this chemical that does it all, so you don't have to like dip in and out of different chemicals. Bloody hell! By the way, chemicals, nightmare to get rid of. Nightmare. Oh, fuck. Yeah. Anyway. So I've got this, you can buy like a black bag essentially that you put your camera in and you put your hands in, and essentially it's like a miniature black room, but you can't see what you're doing. So you're having to fumble around in this black bag, undoing like the film from the spool and putting it in. And honestly, my hands were in this bag for an hour. I was so frustrated because I thought I can't waste this. It's got memories on it from my kids, but you know, and I wanted to make sure that I was using the chemicals that I'd already planned out. It took me so long, man. I was sweating profusely. I was getting angry with myself. I did it though, but it was a nightmare.
Yeah, it's brutal. And then you inhale the chemicals and you're kind of high and you're like, oh my God, like what's going on here?
Yeah,
it's just like
that reminded me of my grandfather, like, because he had a dark room, a whole room with red lights and stuff, man. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
So how do you, like, obviously you mentioned with the video, you can't check your shots. So how do you prepare for a shoot knowing that I'm not going to be able to look at these in the moment? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've never really thought about that. I mean, I just make sure my cameras are working and functional, and like I kind of trust the process at that point. Obviously, I have multiple cameras and I have multiple like redundancies to kind of help me out in terms of like situations not going according to plan. But you know, like I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I'm kind of like, I like to feel things out on a wedding day. I don't like to go in too prepared and then kind of be blindsided by like an an inconsistency or something that comes out of the blue that I wasn't prepared for, and that kind of makes you feel discombobulated. So I think going in with like a bit of a vague idea of what you're trying to do, goes a long way, especially like, and it lets me be flexible too, right? So a big thing for me is that I do really get close to the people that I work with. I'm still one of those weirdos that like goes out for coffee and drinks and dinner with my clients before weddings. And I meet people in person, even if I'm shooting somewhere that's like not in my city or my hometown. I'll always carve out time to meet people and kind of get a sense of who they are. And, and sometimes I'll meet people who are really goofy and fun and quirky. And I go into the wedding day already kind of expecting that. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can try like these really fun, quirky things and it'll play really well. Other people, and I get to know people and I'm like, oh, you love this movie? Then I know you love like these kind of romantic and sentimental moments and things. So it kind of like, it gives me permission to lean into certain things like on the wedding day and kind of feel people's energy and play things out. So I go in with like some mild preparation that way and some ideas. And once in a while I have shots or things in the back of my mind that I'm like, oh, I really want to try this if I have the opportunity at this wedding. And then I kind of just like go with the flow. And like a lot of it is like documentary. It feels like you're shooting Planet Earth, sometimes where you're just like, okay, this is going to happen. And I'm going to point the camera at it and make it look nice. Which is kind of freeing, and it kind of like takes the pressure off in terms of being creative every single second of every single moment. But, hopefully that kind of like it sounds like I'm super unorganized and unprepared, but realistically, like I've been doing it for long enough now that, I don't need to kind of like lose sleep over what I'm going to do on the day. And I feel confident that I can show up and get what I need.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about going between medium format and 35mm film. And you gave some examples, but when would you pick one over the other?
So if I have like the opportunity to be methodical and slow, quote unquote slow with the moment and the process, like I'll shoot medium format if I can, because it's beautiful and it has a very similar mood. Like I know all my cameras so well at this point. I know what every film stock on every lens renders like. So if I'm in a scene and I know something's going to look really nice, or fulfill the vision better than something else, then I'll lean on that camera. But and then sometimes I'm just like, oh damn, like this camera, I don't have any more film. Like I'm out of shots and I don't have time to switch my roll, so I'm gonna use whatever I have. And it kind of just happens like that. So like there's a bit of choice making, and then sometimes the choices are already made for me, realistically. But it's a balance. Like I always have at least like one, like medium format, it's like if I have the time to use it, so like in controlled environments, then I pull it out. But I won't pull it out like for speeches or something like that, or I don't know, maybe I will actually, maybe I do, I probably have.
There's no hard and fast rules.
I probably
you
have.
Feel out. Good.
That's right, exactly.
There has been a craze at the moment of using a 28mm lens, especially for film, and I'm not exactly sure where it has come from. Do you use a 28mm lens?
I actually have my favorite lens. Ugh. So my go-to lens is a 28mm lens. It's the photojournalist's lens, though. Like if you ever look at news photography or iconic images taken by Magnum photographers or anybody in the journalism sphere, 35mm is popular, but 28mm is that's the perspective of the human eye, according to journalists. So to kind of take in a whole scene. I didn't realize it was a trendy thing to use.
I'm not sure
I guess
if it's
trendy.
An overarching trend, but I think it's just in recent episodes, we've been speaking to a lot of people that have Leicas or shoot with Leica, and the Leica 28 is the pinnacle of their lenses. So it's maybe just,
that's hilarious.
Maybe just who we've been speaking to.
Fine. But it does feel.
Yeah. If you ever talk to,
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, it feels. I mean, sorry, I interrupted. I'm super rude. Canadians are not rude, I promise.
You're not rude, don't worry.
It's true. The stereotype is true. If you speak to Brjánn, though, she'll never touch my 28, and she'll loves her 35mm lens on her Leica, and she creates beautiful photographs. I don't think there's like any hard and fast rules period for anything. You know, sometimes like the 20 just feels right in my hands because I shot a lot of skateboarding growing up, and that was just like that and a fisheye lens were like, these are the lenses that you need to kind of get a picture that makes sense in this environment. So I've always been like emotionally attached to that focal length, and it's just so comfortable. Like I don't even have to look through the viewfinder to know what the frame's going to look like, you know, to compose. I just know. But 35 millimeter lenses are really beautiful. Brjánn loves her 35 millimeter lens. And this year I've been shooting a lot with my 50. I'm going back to my 50 millimeter lens a lot. So like, you know, it's just like, you know, I feel like as a creative, you're kind of like an ever-changing being. At least you should be. I feel like, or like, you know, like I said, I'm a sappy, emotionally driven, sentimental dude, and you know, different facets of my life. Like I'm really inspired by the people around me and my own life. And like, yeah, I love movies and music, and I mostly love music because it can bring me back to a moment in time. But you know, like, yeah, I'm using my 28 millimeter and 50 now, and then maybe next year I'll just be shooting my 35, or maybe I'll shoot something completely different, like a 45. And I think it's just like, it's nice to have options. And obviously it's nice to have your bread and butter and things that you lean on. But, yeah, I think as a journalist, like I think the 28 millimeter lens is just like, it's like an extension of my eyes and my arm. But I'm trying to challenge myself to create something different now and do different things. So, but it is funny that a lot of people are using a 28 mil because it's actually a very awkward lens when it comes to it. I think a lot of people like misuse them in the sense that they shoot too wide, whereas like you're actually supposed to shoot close with a 28 millimeter lens and frame things closely and then kind of capture an atmosphere around that subject. At least that's the intention in journalism. And then, but you also have the flexibility to get a nice scene set or a nice wide image too. But yeah, it's a very awkward lens.
Yeah, you know, it's funny coming from a cinematography background. Like when you watch a film and their focal lengths being shot and how they shoot, like they do shoot close and on wide lenses a lot of the time, and it's so interesting when you have wedding filmmakers shooting with an 85 and they're shooting. Like it feels very voyeuristic in that sense, and you know there are some amazing creators out there who do shoot with an 85, and it's lovely. It's just it never feels like how I see the world, but there's this weird balance because obviously we always work alongside a photographer. That I'm very aware that sometimes I am gonna probably be in their way. Sometimes, do you ever have that issue when you're at a wedding?
Yeah, Brjánn, who's actually right here giving me more coffee.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. I needed more coffee. Yeah, I'm in her way all the time, or she's in my way all the time. It's great. It's just the way that it goes. But when you're shooting wide, I think, I don't know, like that's interesting. Sometimes I'm just, thanks. Sometimes I'm just, okay with that. Like, and I'm not too worried about it, but I do see that perspective. I don't know. You just got to kind of move around and kind of work with what you got. But yeah, it's weird. I find like 24 is a little too wide for like that purpose exactly. Like, you know, where it's like it's hard to like get anything in or it's hard to get only what you want in a frame. There's always going to be something distracting somewhere, most likely. But yeah, I don't know. It is, but like you used a good word, voyeuristic. And I think like I really don't want my work to feel that way. I never did. I never like, and that's like something I actively avoid because if images feel less personal that way. And like you're saying, like I do see a lot of like wedding cinematographers or wedding photographers using long lenses from far away. And it just kind of like, I don't know. It's like you almost look, you're like on the outside looking in, you know, it doesn't feel like there's like as much intimacy to the photographs and it doesn't feel like you're there. You know what I mean? It feels like you're just kind of like flying by and you kind of happen to see it from a bird's eye view or something. I don't know. It doesn't feel personal. You know what I mean? There's just like something missing there. I don't know how you guys feel about that or I'd love to hear like how you guys shoot things. Cause like I'm always interested in like hearing other people's like creative perspective. I mean,
for the most part, so we kind of divvy up the roles a little bit. So we only do film at the moment. We're aiming to do photography later in the year, but Greg does the audio and the kind of main angles, like the documentary angles. You know, like making sure there's a constant edit if there needs to be. And I'm just dotting around, handheld, and a very similar approach. Like, I'm trying to talk to people. I'm trying to not be a video person in their eyes. Like, I want to be a person first,
Sure.
video second.
Yeah. Typically, you've tended to be on a 35, and I used to, like, for drink reception or couple shoot, I'd tend to be on an 85.
Yep.
But then we found that a lot of those shots weren't really getting used because that 85 focal length didn't suit, like, the style of films that we liked. So I shoot a lot less now. And as Simon says, we'll focus more on just get the audio and do a wee bit of footage as well, but not too much for those moments.
Yeah, like we're pretty bad for overshooting in general, which is terrible. And you were talking about how you want to have a life after the wedding. I feel like I don't sometimes, but there was a decision being made where I was just like, I need to save myself some time. I shoot as if I am the only person there, so I know for sure I've got something of everything. So, when I was on the timeline and all the footage was there, I was like, do I need to look at Greg's stuff? I'm sure he's got the shots, but I've definitely got the shots. So we were just like, Greg, I don't think you need to be here at this point. You can just do some content creation and do social media stuff if you want, and just like do behind the scenes, like fully, or, focus on the audio, because that's really important to us. That sort of thing.
Man, I would love a Greg. Oh.
Everyone says that.
Sorry, I was saying I would love a Greg at my weddings, just like with a boom mic and just kind of letting me know, like, okay, we got it, man. Like, this sounds really good. Like, that would just be such a treat, to have someone like you there to just to handle that. Because obviously, when you're juggling visuals and audio, it's a bit of a
hats off to solo filmmakers that do like that on their own. Like,
I know. Well done.
It's a lot of stress.
Yeah, and I get that. Like with the 85, like it just feels so like, when you watch movies, they use 85s, but it's usually a close up of someone talking, and it's like dialogue scenes and things like that. And I think, you don't really get to do that at a wedding. You're not cutting from camera A to B while people are having a conversation. It just doesn't really work. It feels too produced at that point. But no, that's an interesting perspective, and I think that's cool that you guys can kind of balance that and recognize that. I think that's something that a lot of people can't really do with their own work. They can't recognize the limitations or the challenges that they face and kind of just accept what they're doing and kind of shift a little bit. So hats off to the two of you for recognizing and making slight change to kind of better your lives.
Yeah. And better the life of photographers, because I'm sure, like, I am hyper aware of being in the way. So I am trying to move quick and be nimble. And if I need to get my shot, I'll just get in there and get out.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm not in the way.
Yeah, I mean, we're all trying to do the same thing. I don't think I've ever had like a situation where I want to punch somebody, but maybe in the future. I think I'm lucky because I work with Brjánn most of the time. It's rare that I'm at a wedding where there's someone else doing video and I'm doing photo, because I think if people want video, they just hire us, because cohesiveness of like the portfolio is so, like, if it's like, oh, if you like our photos, then you would obviously enjoy the videos too, because they're just kind of like an offshoot of that. So I don't really have to deal with that challenge as much. I feel like Brjánn has to deal with me a lot more.
I was actually going to ask you about that. So I was looking through what you've titled Toronto Engagement Photo Inspiration, your shoot. And I've stopped.
Oh yeah, SEO.
Yes, I've stopped at a bit where you've got is it models or is it couples? I didn't even read. I just.
They're actually, they're a couple who are also models.
Very handy.
I actually ended up shooting their wedding, and I have their wedding photos are very popular in terms of like people loving their wedding. Their wedding was beautiful. It was in Italy. It was amazing. Nice. Yeah, but anyways, a real couple. It wasn't. No,
it's fine. So I've stopped where you've got their film and then like an actual image, and I'm noticing that the colors, they're obviously different because they are different formats. But I'm intrigued to see that you haven't tried to match them and make them feel. I mean, they don't feel different. When I go from one to the other, you still have that same feeling. But when you look at them side by side, one's definitely more magenta in the skin tones, whereas the other one's more kind of yellowy in the highlights. Minor things. but they're not exactly the same. And I don't think you've tried.
Are you talking about from the video to the photos, or from photo to photo? Yeah. Okay. So that shoot was actually really interesting. So I've worked with Lillian and Alexis before. Back in the day when people used Facebook, they put out a call for because they were living in Berlin and they're moving back to Canada because one of the brides is from Italy, but she's German. It's very convoluted. Or they were living in Amsterdam, moving back. Anyways, they did a call for a photographer to kind of take some photos of them, and they were looking to just like do something because they have a really big YouTube following, and they're very they're basically like spokespeople for like the queer community, and they have a kid now, and they do a lot of really positive content and amazing stuff, and they have a huge YouTube channel, and I guess they just wanted to have some more stuff, and they love to just kind of be in that environment where they're working with a creative and producing something. So I saw this post on this like weird like Facebook group where like models and photographers are supposed to connect, and I've never used it before. I was just like a member just to kind of see if something comes up, and I saw this thing and I was like, and I told Brjánn, I'm like, oh, hey, like these two girls look really cool. This is a really good opportunity for us to just like kind of get our creative juices flowing and do something low pressure, whatever. So we worked with them originally, did a really cool shoot. There might be some photos on my website of them. It's like we did it in like this brutalist architecture place. I shot a lot of black and white film, and it kind of looked like an old Helmut Newton like styled photo shoot. And that was really fun. And then COVID hits, and then they're like, hey, like we're moving out of our apartment in Toronto. We're moving back to Europe. We're moving to Berlin. We want to do some like photos and stuff of us together before we leave. And I was like, of course, we'll do that. And then a friend of mine, Natasha, who's a cinematographer, I asked her if she wanted to join and kind of help light and shoot some stuff. So the video, actually, Natasha did the video stuff from that. And she actually shot it on her like Sony FX or 7 or FS7, whatever those cameras are. So that's actually not film. So that's probably why there's like a disconnect between like the colors from like the videos and the photography, because obviously we shot the photos on analog, and then she kind of did her own thing in terms of like the cinematography. I directed like those scenes, but that's so yeah, so you can see there is a difference between film and digital.
So you're the FX6, did you say? It's a Sony cinema camera.
Yeah, it was a Sony. It was like it was a cinema camera.
You're right. So you've got. I can see you kind of scrolling down a little bit. You can play the video, but you've also got like you can tell that's digital video from that camera. It's obviously got film burns and stuff, overlays. And the problem with is this Vimeo thing? I can't scrub through it, which is annoying. But it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I could always send you the link, but it ended up, there's a band that I really like that I pitched it to. And then the song there is like, so they use this as like a music video, but so there's like some creative direction for that, but
cool.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. If you're into like cool electro bedroom pop, like they're really great. They're really cool.
So that's on, right. Okay. So now I'm seeing the film games film. Yeah. Right. Okay. So that is digital, emulated to look like film, and then you've been shooting. Yeah,
that was like
and you've been shooting on the film.
Yes, I've been shooting. Okay. Yeah. So I essentially directed that video, like for the music video. Like I was the director, and then I brought in Natasha to handle that, and then Brjánn and I kind of took photos and kind of created some content that way. But yeah, I wasn't trying to like trick anybody and being like, I shoot film, and it's clearly not. It was like kind of Natasha's artistic direction to make the video look how she wanted, and I think she kind of did that to add a bit of cohesion to like the photography and just to kind of like have a bit of play. But I don't think the intention was to try to like pull.
No, you don't get that sense when you actually watch the video. It's only because I had seen the frame grabs first.
So on a wedding booking where Brjánn's doing the photos and you're doing like a Super 16 film, how do you approach the color grading there? Do you try and do you try and balance them a wee bit, or do you make sure and be like, no, this is how the film looked, that was the stock I used, and that's how the photos look? Are they completely separate?
Yeah. I think there's a misconception, I think, in general with film where people think like, oh, you get things scanned and then that's it, it's over. But we actually do color grade the video. We color correct and grade the film scans. So there's like still like the whole editing process still exists, and that hasn't changed. I think the nice thing about shooting, 16 millimeter, especially with Brjánn doing the photography, or like me doing the photography. Sometimes I've done both by myself, which is psycho, and I don't recommend that to anybody. But the nice thing about the cohesion of those things is, like, I'm shooting Kodak film because that's all that exists, unfortunately, basically, for professional film, and same with the motion picture film, unfortunately. But fortunately, the Kodak stocks all have a similar feeling, and they're all kind of from similar emulsions. So the cohesion of like the two, there doesn't have to be too much thinking when it comes to like making things match, because they'll just naturally have that same feeling and similar color palettes, like ingrained in them, like, ironically. But so it's kind of fun. I'd have to show you guys like maybe like a wedding album that I've delivered that had photo and video, and you can kind of get a better sense of that. I think, it may be in like that portfolio thing I sent you guys. There's a few frame grabs from some weddings that I've shot with and the photos from those weddings that you can kind of see that there's a bit more of the content lives in a similar universe. You know what I mean? And I think it's also nice to have them be cohesive, but also stand alone as their own thing. But so that, we're not trying to like color grade everything to be exactly the same as the photos. I think like inherently film has that balance, and which is why, again, shooting digital makes things a little bit more challenging. If we did shoot digital, where it's like, okay, now we have to like match 4 or 5 different cameras and like different lenses, different lighting situations, it becomes a bit more tricky, and again, more involved in the post-processing.
Yeah, definitely. Have we spoken about, we've spoken a little bit about, have we spoken actually about what you offer, like your packages and prices?
We touched on it, yeah.
We touched on it. Which
Touch on it, but I mean, I can go into more specific details if that's of interest,
I always do think it's of interest to people, because I think in society, especially over in the UK, I don't know what it's like in Canada, we don't like talking about how much we charge, or we don't like asking. So I just like to be asking, and some people are like, they don't like to mention it, but I always like to make sure that at least the new people coming into the industry get a sense of how we're breaking down our prices, and why we're making the decisions to show our prices or not show our prices, or do the a la carte thing or whatever. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that stuff. I mean, I'm European, like by culture, so like I'm happy to speak about uncomfortable things, and it doesn't make me uncomfortable. So it's totally fine, and I think it is important, like you said, especially for new people, or even people who are trying, like, I love to like talk about this stuff, because a lot of people are trying to shoot more film or shoot Super 8 or like add that to their packages, and I think a lot of people are shooting themselves in the foot by like not knowing how to price that 100%. Stuff properly. So like for me, my packages, it's interesting, and besides, I'm sure people have inquired with me, and I've caught a couple of photographers inquire with me, try to get my
You're
pricing.
not the only person to say that,
anyways, and
that seems to be
and it's totally fine. So people can just ask, and like, you can, like, if you're listening to this, you can just ask. I'm happy to just tell you. It's totally fine. You don't have to pretend. It's funny because like the people that I've caught like accidentally use like their work email, and then it was just like, that was a big mistake, big oversight there. It's pretty funny. But anyways, so I have like essentially two pricing guides. I have one for my photography, one for my videography. That being said, in my photography pricing guide, I do offer video as an add-on. So if someone is inquiring with me just for photography, I have that information there to be like, oh, by the way, this is a thing that I do that you might be interested in case you only found my photography portfolio. So when it comes to photography packages, I believe my 6-hour package, which is like kind of like my entry-level base package, is $6,500 Canadian, or maybe it's 7,000. I should know this, but I don't. It's around that pricing, because we've had to shift things over the last couple of years because of rising costs of film and stuff, and just to value our work in a different way and not work so much, because 2 years ago we had 97 weddings, and last year we had 67, and then this year we have 59. Dude, and I'm trying to work less. So
what the fuck?
Yeah, and I'm not exaggerating. Between Brjánn and I, 2 years ago was like still the COVID backlog, and I told you we're masochists. We love pain. So we took on a lot, and this is like obviously like a combination of elopements and full weddings and everything. But we had 97 weddings, and like our company had 97 weddings.
God,
it was insane. It was actually insane. I burnt out that year. It wasn't fun. So we revisit our pricing and all that fun stuff. But anyways, entry level package, you're looking at $6,500 to $7,000. That's a 6-hour day. I shoot it on film. It includes me and Brjánn, or me and another photographer. Pretty straightforward. That keeps climbing. I mean, when people work with us, we end up like kind of making custom proposals and packages, but my pricing guide is essentially a way to present people like, hey, in this price range, you can get this. And in this price range, you can get that. But ultimately, everybody always ends up kind of getting custom packages, because my packages are broken up like 6, 8, 10 hours, where some people get 7 hours, some people get 9, some people get 11 or 12. And then we just kind of price things out based off of the people's needs. But it's nice to kind of give people like a blank slate and like something to build off of. So yeah, my base package would be around that price. And then my top package, which includes 2 rolls of video, I think it's like 12 or 13,000. I have to double check, but it's like in that ballpark. And if you're just doing photography, I think like my top 10-hour package is like $10,000 or something like that. And then for my video packages, I think they're like ish in the same ballpark, like in terms of the ranges. So like I have like a mini package where I can do 2 rolls of Super 8 or 2 rolls of 16 millimeter. And I think that's like 4,000 or 4,500. And it goes up to like 10 or 12, depending on like the day and how many rolls of film. Video, I have to be a bit more calculated with my packages, because there is like, a finite amount of film that I can realistically shoot. I can't just be like, hey, I'll just show up and shoot as much film as I need. Like, I have to be a bit more like constrictive with that and let people know like, hey, how long of a final product do you want? How much raw footage do you want to have to look back on? How much coverage do you want of every key moment? And then it's a bit more like, there's a bit more back and forth, and there's a bit more involvement in terms of like knowing what we need. But that's like kind of roughly the range. So you're looking at anywhere from like 7,000 to 12,000, but sometimes that looks different based off of the wedding and what I'm doing. Some people like only hire us for like a 3 or 4 hour like city hall kind of elopement. Obviously that's, I'm charging maybe like 5,000 for that or 4,000 for that because it's a weekday and it's different. So, I play it by ear, but obviously the biggest thing is know how much my film costs, my development costs, what I value my time in terms of post-processing and at the wedding, and then kind of just like put something that's comfortable. And like the cost of living where I live is obviously not cheap. So, so there's all these little factors that kind of go into play, but that's ish what we're looking at. So hopefully I don't sound like I'm unaffordable or I'm too cheap or anything like that. Cause I'm sure there's like all kinds of people out there, right? Some people will hear that and they'll be like, man, that's fucking crazy because it's too much, or that's fucking crazy because that's too low. So, it is what it is. Like, I'm happy where we're at. Like, I'm not like influenced by money necessarily, if that makes sense. But at the same time, I want to be comfortable and kind of, create a life for myself where I can kind of keep doing this.
Do
Absolutely.
you provide physical prints as standard or albums? Like, how does that fit into things?
Yeah. So in my top package, we have like a really beautiful, or 2 beautiful options for albums. One's kind of a more classic fine art album where the photos are printed and like inlaid into the pages. So they kind of look like matted art prints, which is really cool. And then I do, the other option is like one of those cool, like photo book style, like photo books that you would buy like at a museum, where it's like the photos are printed directly on the pages and it's kind of like magazine style, but like hardcover. And it's like really cool. And it's essentially like a museum style book. So that's an option. And I only offer that because Brjann's background in print production, design, and curation, she handles all the designs of the albums and she's like directly involved. So otherwise, I don't know if I would do them, because like I like the idea that we do things in-house and we can create something for the client. But that being said, through like PickTime and all these other online galleries, people order prints all the time. What is standard though, I always give people the negatives if they so choose to have them. They don't have to. Some people don't really want them. I don't know why, but they don't. But I always offer people, like, once everything's scanned and archived and good to go, and they have their gallery, if they want the negatives to put in a shoebox and put under their bed, they're more than welcome to ask, and I'll mail that out to them. Same with the reels for Super 8. If people want the raw reels, I'm happy to give it to them, because otherwise they just get stacked in my closet, and like those are other people's memories. Like, I don't really care that much about it, like in terms about keeping the physical mediums. So those things things are always standard with everything. The videos, I always give people the raw scans of like everything, because not everything makes the final cut. And I kind of love giving those because it's inherently the experience that you would have if you're watching those on a projector, like back in the day, like when you shot them. So it's like, hey, we're going to see everything, even like the bad stuff and even like the things that didn't make the highlight reel, so to speak. So other than that, like everything is kind of like negotiable in the sense, like my time, like I can always work around those things or how much I shoot and all these things. So that's the basis of it.
That's awesome.
You mentioned burnout in that sort of answer there. How did that manifest itself? Was that like physically, mentally, artistically? And then on top of that, like how did you get through that burnout? Like how have you got to the other side of it yet?
Yeah. Good question. It's like a never-ending burnout. You know what I mean? No, but it was mostly mental. You know, I've always been an active person, and like, you know, and I've always been, you know, I've always cared about like my health. In terms of like my physical health, I've always been like, you know, active in that sense. So like, I never felt like kind of like, I mean, yeah, I felt tired and like physically, like my elbows would just be sore from like holding a camera like this for 9 hours. But it was more of a mental thing and a creative thing for sure. You know, when you're doing like so the year we had like 90 plus weddings, like I was physically at 50 some, and then Brjánn was at like equivalent amount essentially. And you know, once you hit number 50, you're just like, wow, I've done this before, you know, like, and you just start to like kind of question what you're doing. You try to figure out like, hey, like, can I do something else here that's going to be inspiring to me? And you kind of lose sight of like what your objective is creatively. So like that was really tough. Mentally, it was hard, you know, like, cause I didn't have time to like hang out with my friends. I didn't have time, you know, Brjánn and I were mostly spending time together working and not like leisurely or for pleasure. You know, so like, it was hard, you know, like mentally it was really challenging, and you just wanted to do nothing. Anytime I was home, I just wanted to just do nothing. Like I just wanted to just sit there, stare at the wall, like do nothing. It was kind of bad. And it was just like, it was exhausting that way. And yeah, and then basically we told ourselves like, yo, we cannot grind like this. You know, like Toronto's kind of like New York, if you're familiar with New York. Obviously not to that size. New York is Toronto on steroids, but you're basically like, there's a culture here where you're constantly pushing forward and moving and grinding and making money and trying to make a living and taking work. And that's just like the culture here. And I'm not like, inherently, I love working in the sense that I love taking pictures and I love my job, but like there is such thing as too much. And you start to learn that when you get to that point. So, so basically what we said was like, hey, we got to take on less work, or we got to be able to say no to people, even though something's great and cool and a great opportunity. We just have to be able to just like stand up and say no. So we kind of started doing that. And then obviously I took like a month vacation. I went to like Mexico, traveled, like, you know, I kind of recharged my batteries, left my cameras at home all the time, never felt the need to like pick one up, you know, just to try. It was like, hey, if I want to take pictures, I will. And if I don't, that's okay. And yeah, I would say we're on the other side. Our workflow now is a lot more cohesively complete, and we have like a really good system in place. So we're not spending hours just like always on the computer, always doing things. We've had a lot more free time this year for ourselves. And it's been like a huge change, because like now we go into wedding days, you know, like I give my all like at every wedding. And I think that was the problem, was that I was suffering for like 5 or 6 days out of the week just so that I can be good to go on the wedding day. So every wedding, even like out of those 60, I was always 100% good. I never showed up like tired or like not wanting to be there. It was just the other parts of my life that were being affected. And I had to remember that like I'm a human being, and I have a family, and I have friends, and I have a life, and I have things and hobbies that I like doing. And if not to being able to do those things, like you really suffer. And then you realize like that affects your creativity, because you're not like in putting yourself in an environment that, you know, promotes that inspiration, you know, because I was starting to be like, hey, like, why am I feeling less inspired? It's because I'm not spending time with the people who inspire me, and I'm not doing the things that inspire me outside of like taking pictures. So yeah, I don't recommend it. I think people should be very careful about how much work they take on, and it is a real thing. And I can understand like newcomers to the industry will say yes all the time, and that's great. And I used to do that too, especially when I was in the news world. I said yes to every assignment because I was trying to climb the ladder and be established, but don't do it at the expense of like your own well-being and happiness. It's not worth it. It never is. And but I am on the other side. I'm okay. I'm surviving. I've spent a lot of time this year doing things that I love, and it's been great. This has been the best year probably of my career so far in terms of like the work that I'm creating and producing, which I never share and probably should. But it's just like I feel great. Like I feel good, and I'm in a good place in my life, and I think it's because I've struck a balance, and I think that that's super important. But you have to hit the wall, eventually to kind of realize that you need that.
Yeah.
I like a happy ending. So
should we talk about some of that work that Brjánn creates?
Yeah, imagine after all that, I was just like, I hate my life, guys. It's over for me.
I mean,
don't take pictures. Don't take pictures.
Don't do film. You'll be poor.
You'll hate yourself.
All right, so I am. This just reminds me of one of my favorite images that I actually took on my own. And it was just when I learned to embrace mistakes, and I feel like you would never. I feel like you would never see an image like this in so many people's galleries, and I feel like I love it for that.
She actually has that photo printed in their house. Funny enough.
See, I would 100% print that as well.
So that's like Alexis and Lillian. Like that's actually the wedding, like the day of those two individuals.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you're probably wondering what's going on here and why.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So the nice thing about shooting Leicas is that you basically load the film and like you start taking pictures right away. So even before the film gets to like frame number 1. So this is actually just like first of the roll essentially, which is like a very trendy film thing that people try to do. So when you load your camera before you get to number 1, this is like there's a couple of like frames that are burnt in before like the film is burnt out, like, where there's no like chemistry or whatever. So when I load the rolls, like I always know on my counter, like before I hit 0, there's maybe a chance 1 or 2 of these pictures can turn out. Sometimes I compose it and I get lucky. It's just luck. So basically what I did was like, I was trying to get to this beginning of the day. She's getting ready. We had the camera, like I just loaded the camera and I'm trying to get to the first frame. And I was like, hey, I'll just like shoot this composition. And if something turns out cool, and if something doesn't, then it doesn't. But I was pretty lucky that the light leak and the film burn was at the bottom of the frame. So you can kind of create some context to what's happening, and just kind of like a happy accident, and like nothing, you can't really plan those photos out. You can try, but you'll never like ever get it exactly as the way that you wanted. But yours was just like a fun, she was sitting so elegantly and poetically there, and I was just like, this is just like a nice soft moment, and I hope this turns out. And then I got probably an actual photo at once the roll made it through.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know, something about the colors as well, the kind of like bottom right, kind of those yellow hues coming in on contrast, the blue robe. So I don't know, it just kind of fits nicely visually for me. But yeah, lovely. Next image, Gregory. This image stood out for me because I feel like, those moments that just happen and you take a picture and it's there, and you didn't. I know this may have been directed. You might be like, okay, walk that way, right, and look back towards me. But I feel like this is actually like a genuine. I don't know. It just has that kind of genuine moment vibe to me that many try to direct.
Yeah,
they tried to direct it. And I'm not sure if you did here, but I just like the fact that it just doesn't feel that way to me. Plus, I'm a big fan of black and white.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually shot this. I think it was like a Nikon F100, so it has like more of like that cool depth of field than you would get with like a Leica, and I think that was my 28mm lens, guys, believe it or not, or 35,
amazing.
I can't remember. But that being said, so like we were talking about my career in journalism and what I've kind of translated. And I think what I loved about journalism and taking portraits of people in a moment was, you know, as the photographer, you're essentially creating a universe for people to live in, and you want them to be themselves in that world. And I think that that's what was happening here. And I think a lot of what I tell people is like, hey, organically on this wedding day, we're going to do things that will lead to photos. So we don't have to overthink it or like go out of our way to like go to a beautiful location and stand in front of a beautiful tree, like all these things. Like we could do that not organically. So, Lauren and Phil here, they were walking to their venue through like a neighborhood in Toronto, like we have all these beautiful like side streets in the middle of like the city. And they were just like, we were just walking to the venue, after taking, I think maybe family photos in an alleyway or something like weird like that. And we were just walking, and the bride, obviously she's like further up ahead. And I was talking to Phil, you know, just as I was loading my cameras and stuff. And I think we were just walking. And then sometimes I just like tell people, yo, hey, like just to get their attention. And then like without like prompting them, like, okay, I'm going to tell you to look back now. Like I usually just do it. And like, he kind of has like this, like stoic look, because I think he was genuinely looking back to see what I wanted, but I was just trying to kind of capture that authentic reaction from him. And by doing that, you can only really do that by creating an authentic moment. And I think by not giving people too much direction and then getting something like that, I think that's why he kind of just like looked back. And obviously he's a good looking guy and had great style. And it just like kind of created this like kind of timeless moment where he, because like, you know, you see this photo a lot, but it's usually the bride, you know, looking back, you know, I think people really focus on that. And I think a lot of people hire me because at least they say that the grooms actually really love our work. And I think it's because we put emphasis on both people, you know, and I you know, cause like I'm a person too, and I got married, and I like the idea of like, oh, hey, like, you know, it's my day too. And like, I want to look cool, and I want to like be in pictures, and I want to be, you know, the center of some of these moments. So, so I think like it was just like kind of like this cool opportunity to, you know, do that. And I think it just kind of happened. It was a fluke, you know, every picture I take is by accident, guys. Like there's that's what I do. It's pretend. But yeah, so like, yeah, it was just that. Again, it was just like, we were all like just kind of chilling and talking and hanging out. And again, building a relationship with people, just being able to be like, yo, hey, and have the person look back at you because they're interested in the fact that you're trying to talk to them, could lead to a moment. That's all it was. That's it. There's nothing else. It wasn't this curated opportunity or anything like that. It was just like fleeting, you know? And I think that's why I love that photo too, actually. So yeah, I'm glad you chose it.
Yeah. Nice. I think it is that natural look on his face that makes the image that feel natural.
Yeah. Plus just a lovely frame, just a lovely composition. Oh, so good.
Thank you.
All right. Next image. Are you manually focusing, by the way? I didn't.
So that camera had autofocus.
Right.
But I would say like most of the cameras I use have manual focus because I trust it. Like the Leica, it's like when the image is split, it's not in focus. When the image isn't split, it's in focus. So it's very easy for me to tell. But I, you know, obviously autofocus cameras are great, but that one happened to just have autofocus.
Yeah. So this next image, the reason I like it is because you've got these different shadows, different tones of light coming in, and it feels. So I automatically just want to say I don't know any of the story behind this. It does feel like it would be from an actual real wedding, but it does feel like those lights feel very studio-esque. So there's this kind of like weird balance. I just wanted to. No, like, is this real? Like, what's going on with these lights?
Is this real?
Is AI. A genuine moment?
No, it's not. It's not real. It's not. It's actually this frame came from a campaign I shot for a bridal designer from France who was making wedding dresses, and she liked our work, and she's like, "I'd love for you to shoot my new collection." So we were in a kind of on location somewhere, and I used like I have old like RE tungsten like lights, like those old school, like you put them on
like
and,
the
like,
Fresnels, like with the bulbs.
Exactly.
Oh man,
like
we used to have one of those.
they are hot. They are fucking hot. So I'm sure the model there was cooking, but yeah, so I just set up these kind of two things. And I really loved like the design of like the dress. I think the concept when we were talking was, it kind of reminded me of like a butterfly, and you have like these wings or this kind of fairy moment. So I wanted the lighting to feel like there was like two intersecting things to kind of create like that kind of similar silhouette. And I just kind of got the bride to like, sometimes it's nice to have like these like moments that are interpretive, even for like a lookbook or a collection, to kind of show different aspects of it. And, and I take photos like this at weddings. Obviously I don't have the control of the lighting like I do, but it was nice to kind of create this sort of intriguing, multiple like feeling in one image. But yeah, this was shot, like this was like kind of more of a commercial shot. So, not like curated for a wedding, but, something that would inspire me at a wedding to shoot. If I could find light like that ever, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes, for like interesting city architecture or something, you do find that light enters buildings in unique ways. And, like often Greg and I will take a light with us, and, there's just there's kind of like the warmer light and the cooler light. So I was thinking maybe one is coming through a window at like sunset, but yeah, I don't know. And just the way you framed it as well, just a really nice, clean, thoughtful calmness that you get. Which I really enjoyed. Next image, Greg. Oh, where are we? And how many images did I pick? You said I went over.
One more after this.
Okay. Yeah. So, this is a picture of a couple in an alleyway. Not your bog standard wedding image. And I feel like this for me represents just your approach to wedding photography in general. That you're not going to weddings going, I'm gonna take wedding photos. You don't get that at all from your work. But this to me is where it just has all of that for me. And I think it's all too easy to be, I think it's really easy to be the alternative photographer and go around with a prism and be like, oh, we're in cool places. Here's some graffiti. Here's a dark, dingy alleyway. And then be the luxury wedding photographer and like having this kind of scene nowhere near your portfolio. It's all fine art, architecture or whatever. But I feel like there's an art to kind of blending these two in a way that's actually more bold than either approach, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the goal, really. Like I want it to feel editorial, but I want to feel documentary at the same time. And I think that's like always been my like passionate thing, because I always loved magazines growing up. Obviously, even like again, skateboarding and music, and seeing like rock stars, and they have this persona, and there's a portrait of them like in the green room, which is like a real moment, but then it's also like not real because they know they're being photographed and they're trying to exude something. So that's kind of like how I approach my wedding work too when it comes to portraits. Again, I create this universe and I tell people, hey, like, be your, like, live in it. And like these two people, they're actually some of the coolest people I've ever met. Just like legit rock stars, super, like just legit cool. Like Nigel is a musician. So he was very like willing to just, let go of like any anxieties and just kind of do his thing. And I think I like told them, I'm like, hey, like it'd be kind of fun if you guys just like had, I want to get this cool frame. I love this alley. I walk by it all the time, in my time in Toronto. And their wedding was like right around the corner, and because they had a really cool alternative wedding. And I was just like, yeah, like I just want you guys to flirt and be playful and just kind of do what makes sense, because that's kind of the energy that they were going for. And they also wanted something like haunting and kind of, I don't know. I don't really know. So then he kind of just like went to kiss her, and she's super short and he's taller, and they're just like these layers, and he just like naturally leaned to give her this kiss. And I was just like, this is fucking great. Like, this is so cool. And looked, and I just took the picture. Like, that's the film I had. I had my black and white, like that's the camera I had in my hand in the moment, took the picture, just kind of everything worked out nicely. Again, by accident, guys. Like, I don't do any of this stuff on purpose. Unfortunately, I can't take credit for it, but I think I just kind of gave them the opportunity to do that. And then they went for it. Once in a while I'll tell people, like, if it feels right at any point, you guys are welcome to kiss, hug, hold hands, like whatever connection you want to have with each other in this moment, like you guys go for that. And I don't know what they're going to do necessarily, but I have to be ready for it. And then he kind of just like playfully, like I think he was just like kind of teasing her and like kind of like, because he was extra tall and she was extra short because he was on the curb, and it just like kind of created this like fun thing. And he just kind of playfully did that, and it was very like rock and roll like of him to do it. And I was just like, this is awesome. I was just like really stoked on that. But I mean, I don't know.
You
like,
keep
that's
saying you keep saying by accident, but these accidents can only happen because the universe has been created for them to play in, or the world, and you've created that world for them to play in, and you being ready to capture that as well. Like, the accidents don't just happen.
Sure, yeah,
It's not complete accident. But,
sure. It's a fabricated accident. Manipulated accident.
As well, just compositionally, leading lines and all that kind of good stuff. It's nice. It's just another nice image. Again, I would print that and put it on my wall for sure.
Yeah, they actually 100%. Also printed this photo. Like, that's their favorite photo from the whole wedding. So it is what it is. You chose well.
I can see why.
But it's funny. I mean, like, you guys talked about like the whole luxury and all these things. I feel like there's such a funny thing in this industry. I'm actually like, I like being at arm's length with the industry and not knowing what's going on and who's popular and what things are. But I know like the whole luxury and documentary thing is like these opposing ideologies that never intersect. And, like you said, I feel like I don't belong in either of those categories. And I don't really like necessarily jive with the people who are so hardcore in either one, because I feel like there's there's too much emphasis on doing things a certain way, and I think that takes the fun out of taking pictures. And I don't know, like I don't know. I don't like the idea of like being called a luxury photographer and having this sort of persona where I have to show up and kind of like play a role or whatever. And I also don't like the idea of like pretending that I don't want to be like involved in a wedding day and be so documentary in the sense that I'm so hands off. But I don't know. It's kind of nice that people can kind of see that in the work though, because like that is like literally the goal for us. So
nice. Last image.
Yep.
Good one.
Okay. I actually like this for the colors. Very as much as there's like a ton of like city harsh lights, I feel like you've done a really good job of like, or just the environment is just, it just feels so super soft and welcoming, and just again it's like that kind of candid looking back, not that you've directed, just like they're just chatting and she's like very nonchalantly, just cool vibes in a place that just I don't know, you know what I mean? Probably not, because I'm waffling at this point, but I just really liked it. You've got the blues in the, there's kind of like a blue cooler shadows, but the light is, I don't know, it's just nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because like I knew we were going to be working in this space. This is a really cool like contemporary hotel, boutique hotel in like downtown Toronto. So obviously you can see the cityscape in the background. And I knew we were going to be there in the evening because it was October, and we were going to be doing these. There's like a moment for the couple to just kind of be, and we can take pictures if we want. So it's blah blah blah. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll load Cinestill, which is like a motion picture film, and it has like that motion picture vibe, which is why these colors kind of look as they do. And I was like, okay, cool. There's going to be some neon lighting in the bar. There's going to be the outside, and then we were going to go outside to take pictures, and I wanted to use like the street lights and like the natural like vibrancy of the city. And I was like, okay, cool, this film will just like, it'll look cool, like obviously it'll look good because it'll play well. And then the couple was just like, I think they were just kind of like, we just did some family pictures and there was a lot going on, and I think they just wanted a moment. So they're like, we're kind of hungry. And I was like, oh, like, why don't you guys sit at the bar and like get some sushi? Because they had like sushi there for them, and just have a drink and just like kind of enjoy a moment together. Like literally just enjoy this before the ceremony and all that stuff's gonna happen, because this was all before the ceremony and stuff. So and then they were sitting at the bar, and I just like, you know, you just like watch. People watch. I just watch people. Like literally, that is what I do at weddings. Like I just watch them and how they behave. And I think Brjánn and I, we were kind of like whispering to each other, just like we're talking about how beautiful like the bride's dress was, and Brjánn was kind of talking about how everything was falling so nicely and whatever. And I think she kind of was like listening to us and thought we were talking to her, and then she kind of looked back, and then I was just like, oh my God, that looks so great. Like, one sec. And then I was just like, and I took the picture, and that kind of was it. Cause like the groom, I think, was just like talking or like just doing whatever, just hanging out, just like staring off into like the void about thinking about contemplating about getting married and stuff. But yeah, it was just like a nice little moment. Again, like kind of an accident in the sense that like I didn't like have this vision where I was like, you're going to sit at the bar and you're going to look back at me and you're going to look beautiful. It's going to be perfect. It was just, you know, a moment that, you know, was fleeting, and you kind of just paid attention. And obviously, like if something happens and it looks really beautiful, I'll tell people like, that just looked so good, and I saw you just naturally do that. Can you just maybe hold that, or maybe try that again for me? Like that does happen, obviously, but I always kind of play off of like things that I've seen. You know, I'll never just like tell people like, okay, yo, you know, I need you to look back at me right now. It's like whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing, but it all kind of happened. It's like messy. I like that the bar is there and like all these half drunk like cokes or whatever the hell's on there, and it's just like fine. I like the realness of it, and I feel like little details like that make a photo feel real, I think, versus something that's like hyper stylized and curated and super polished.
Yeah. And I think you know, I think from a photographer's point of view, I think if they were to see the couple at this cool bar, they'd probably shoot it with the cool bar in mind. So they'd maybe shoot it from a different angle and incorporate more of the bar. Now, the bar might have been too messy to do something along those lines if a photographer's thinking about that. But I just like the fact that it's not about the bar, and it's not even about them, because you can't see the groom's face, really.
Yeah, you can't.
It's just, again, it's like capturing that vibe element.
Yeah, it's kind of like
the seat and the reds and the
I like the photo. Like I know I said voyeuristic photos are kind of stupid, but like I like my photos to feel like I caught people in a moment, like a street photographer, like a documentary photographer, where like things are just kind of unfolding in front of them, and you're just like, whoa, I caught that. You know what I mean? I think that feels great. And I think you know, I think they love these photos as well. I know that the bride really liked this photo too. Obviously, she looks stunning and beautiful, and the groom loved the photo too, because I feel like it kind of encapsulated this sort of quiet moment that they had during the wedding day that they really appreciated. So it's just like, I don't know, it's you know, like you said, it's not about the bar, it's not about the people. It's just like, I don't know, it's like kind of a scene setter more than it is a portrait, almost, in some ways.
It definitely got that unforced feel to it again. Like, so natural.
Yeah, but you're right. There is a difference between that and creating an image where that it does have that kind of voyeuristic tone. I feel like it's very hard to balance the two, and I think I've spoken about this on the podcast before, but there have been people who have been saying one thing about what their images are feeling, but then I'm looking at the lens that they're shooting with, and they're talking about shooting a drinks reception with an 85 and feeling like you're really there because you're shooting through people. And I'm like, if I was really there, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be wanting to feel like I'm on the outside of a circle looking in with people's shoulders framing a moment. It just feels so weird to me that this is what is being said, but that's not how I'm feeling here. That's not how I'm feeling at all. So I don't know. There's a bit of a disconnect sometimes, I feel, with what people are wanting to capture and what they are actually capturing visually and with whatever feeling.
It's true. I mean, I challenge people to like not play it safe, in the sense that, you know, instead of using things like, I don't know, you mentioned prisms or all these other things, like instead of like relying on things like that to create intrigue, like immerse yourself into the environment, like get to like be in the middle, you know, be close, be in front of people, be in their face, but like obviously respectfully, but not, you know what I mean? Like be seen, you know, and involved without like, you know, drawing too much attention to yourself, but, you know, and take chances and kind of try to create a different perspective that feels like more intimate, you know, like when you're at a wedding as a guest, you're going to be close to people, you're talking, you're going to be in the middle of it all. So why wouldn't I, as a photographer, put myself in that situation? And again, like even at cocktail hours or receptions, like I'm doing as much talking as I am taking pictures. And, you know, it's a people job, you know? And I think that's, I think at the end of the day, I hope my photos feel like the people in front of the camera just like me, and they wanted to, like, you know, or they not just like me, but like me in the sense that they are comfortable to be who they are and kind of react to you. Cause like your photos are a reflection of who you are and like your own personality, and people are reacting to you. They're not reacting to your camera. So they're reacting to the things you say and to your behavior. And I think that that's important to know that, you know, and whether your behavior is outwardly expressive or whether it's just like your presence, you know, like people recognize that you're there. So you should lean into that in some opportunities when it's tastefully done. It could be great and it could feel personal. And I think creating that kind of intimacy in photos is what everybody strives for. You know, everyone wants that familiar feeling in every photo that they look at.
Yeah,
I agree.
So, in wrapping up, do you have any book recommendations for our listeners to go and check out, whether it be like a photo book or more businessy related or something?
I'm a big photo book guy. I have a lot of photo books, and I like just looking at photos and especially old photos, obviously. But I don't know, like honestly, I would recommend going to just a museum and like looking through art, like not necessarily photography. I think just like immerse yourself in other art forms. I think that's so important. And like, you know, I can give some recommendations and stuff, but whatever. But I honestly think like just go to the museum and look at sculptures and like ask yourself, like, you know, put yourself in the artist's perspective and shoes and ask yourself like why are the lines like this, or like what were they trying to interpret here? And that'll just open your mind more than looking at photos will ever do. I love looking at photos, obviously, like don't get me wrong, and I love doing that. And I do it like now I do it in sprinkles and in moments, but I've been trying to be more immersed in other art forms that aren't necessarily visual. Like, so like I'm avoiding movies, I'm avoiding photos, listening to more music, you know, cause it's not visual at all. Reading poetry. I'm really into that right now. And then just like, you know, sculpture and painting, like I've been really a big fan of that stuff. You know, I know paintings are visual arts, but you know, I'm talking more like not like paintings of a person sitting in a chair, like, you know, from like the Renaissance era. I'm talking just like other styles of painting and art. And I think like as wedding photographers, you know, you have to understand that the work that you're making is considered an art form. And I think it's important to immerse yourself in other mediums just to kind of help expand and evolve what you do for yourself. So my recommendation is go to a museum, and there's a lot of good ones out there, or even an art gallery, like anything, and just interact with art in a different way. And I think you'll appreciate that. And stop watching movies and trying to shoot stuff that you see in movies. That's not, movies are too controlled. You know what I mean? Go look at art that people made with intention and heart. Obviously people make movies with heart, but I think it's just too easy to fall into complacency when you're studying visual mediums and you're just like, well, this looks good, I'm just going to do this, you know? Whereas like I can listen to a song and feel something and be inspired, and then I can visualize something at that point, and then I feel like I'll make better images that way. So that's my recommendation to people. Don't and then I don't know, just like go against the grain, be counterintuitive, and go counterculture. That's my vibe. That's always been my vibe. I don't do what everyone else is doing, and just don't listen or watch and do the things that everyone else is doing.
Nice, very cool, nice piece of advice there. I like that. Well, that brings us to the end. So what a conversation. I feel like it's flown by. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, sorry I rambled, and I really don't like talking about myself and my things, but I do appreciate being asked all these questions, and I'm always open to it. If you or anybody who's listening or watching ever wants to reach out, then absolutely welcome. I love to, build those bridges and chat with people. And we're all in this together, really. Like, you know, we all hate each other at the same time, but we're all in it together. And, you know, we don't all have to agree. And like, there's a lot of wedding photographers whose work I despise and personalities I can't stand. But at the end of the day, like, we're all in this together, and I'll never gatekeep anything. So if anyone ever wants to chat with me about anything, I'm happy to do that. And I guess my other piece of advice is, I don't know, don't focus on making content so much. Go take pictures and worry about your own life. Take photos of your own life. I guess that's my other piece of advice. Like practice what you preach, you know, like I feel like a lot of wedding photographers these days, I'm going on a tangent here, I'm sorry, but a lot of wedding photographers are just making like too much like reels, and they're focused on content creation and they're not focused on image making. And I think that that's like a really, like, it's going to come back and kill you. Like you're going to either burn out, or you're just, I don't know, is your intention to be like an influencer, or you want to be a photographer? You know what I mean? I guess you have to ask yourself that question, and then you'll hit the fork in the road and you'll make your decisions from there. But don't get too trapped up in that stuff. So, but I'm always happy to chat. Thank you guys so much for inviting me and listening to me. I'm just a nobody with a camera, so I appreciate even just discussing my work, because I really am, you know, like I'm not some sexy popular photographer with a lot of clout or anything like that, but hopefully I was articulate enough and I didn't
you are a rangefinder rising star.
Oh yeah,
we didn't even talk about that.
So was Brjánn.
Didn't even talk about it.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was fun. It was cool. That was an honor. Yes, I appreciate that. It's cool when like your peers respect what you do and appreciate it, you know, even if they don't like it maybe, or they don't agree with it or whatever it is. But you know, the wedding community can be great, and it's like always fun. There's people out there like, and I've learned this over the years, because at first I thought I never would, but there are people out there who will connect with you and are like-minded. And I think you just got to find your people, especially in this industry, and it'll feel a lot less lonely, and it'll feel a lot less annoying to kind of deal with all those things.
Yeah. Look, we've spoken about Brjánn quite a bit. What is her photography name or Instagram handle? Or?
Yeah, so she's Brjánn Hollies. So her name is weird. It's spelled Ryan, like Ryanne. Hollies, Hollies. If you actually want to see good wedding pictures, go look at her stuff. Don't worry about mine. Like for real, she's like the best wedding photographer. Honestly, I see her working on wedding days, and she's so personable, and clients love her. They love her. I'm just a dummy, and people think I'm funny because I'm stupid, and I'm not even, you know, because I don't take myself too seriously on wedding days, and I think people appreciate that. But Brjánn is just so kind, and people just like love her energy, and she knows how to like really like make people feel comfortable, and it's like you can't really teach that, and you know, and I'm really lucky to have her on my team, and to have her like help me like grow, and it's a really nice collaborative thing, and I'm just like kind of just like sitting here just like, you know, just like cheering her on, which is great. And so if you ever want like real perspective, she's a great person, and she's an open book, because she had like a workshop for like album making and curation, because obviously she's really passionate about curatorial arts and stuff. So if anyone ever wants to talk to her about those things, she's always willing to chat with people and keeps an open mind, and she's really great. So, and I love her very much.
I mean, we have spoken about her a few times, and I'm just seeing her work for the first time. This is great.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Great work.
She's insane. Yeah, she's really great.
We'll go check her out. Where can people go and check you out online?
Where can people find you and your work?
Yeah, so if you want to see like anything current and relevant, I guess my Instagram right now is it, and it's at 3B Photography, because my name is Brjánn Batista Bettencourt, and that's a big mouthful, so I just kind of shortened it to 3B Photography, and it just kind of stuck. All my buddies call me Triple B like for my whole life and stuff. So 3B Photography, and then my website is 3bphoto.ca. If you want to see some old work, and like me currently updating my website, as is a never-ending project. So but find me on Instagram. You guys anyone can DM me there and see my work there. Hopefully I can be more consistent on sharing things that I've been creating more recently, but there's a lot of great stuff out there, and you can kind of get a good sense of who I am and the people that I work with through that page.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you, Brjánn. People can find us at perspectivebycinemate.com. Our Instagram is at perspectivebycinemate. Thank you to Jack and Pick Time for sponsoring another episode. And we hope you have enjoyed this episode. And if you have, hit subscribe wherever. We have a YouTube at Perspective by Cinemate. That'd be great if you could subscribe and follow and all that kind of good stuff. And follow wherever you get your podcasts. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one. However,
in the meantime,
enjoy your life.